Okay, we're now recording. So what we're going to do today, we're going to go through our next chapter, which I had already put up a video for, and that is Human Resource Strategy, SHRM. We also have a presentation today, and we also have a Carter Cleaning Company. I think I also put up next week's video, which is recruiting and talent management. And so if we finish this today, we'll get right into that. Chloe and Abigail. Chloe and...
Sorry, sir. Can you see my video?
Who? Christine? No.
Christine? Okay, I'm trying to.
Okay. So we're talking this week about SHRM, Strategic Human Resource Management. So let's talk a little bit about that, and then we'll get into the presentation in a few minutes. Who's doing the presentation today? Nicola, Misha, and Jody. So Misha's not here yet, right?
No, I'm here.
Misha is here.
Where? Where's Misha?
I'm here.
Oh. Oh, right, of course. Okay. So, so we'll do that in a few minutes. Are there any questions from last week about the legal stuff? No? Okay. So let me start sharing. So I didn't make discussion questions for this week because I think this is a PPT we can go through together. And then for next week, or, we'll see if we finish this today, but for next week, pretty much, we're going to be starting the kind of what I consider to be the second half of this class, which is, well, maybe I should say the second third of this class. The first third was an introduction, which is what is HR. Then we talked about the laws, and now we talk about strategy. After that, we get into the basic 5 elements of HR. Tell me, Jody, what are the 5 basic elements of HR? The 5 elements of staffing.
Recruiting, selecting, training, evaluating, compensating.
Good. Recruiting, selecting, training, compensating, evaluating. Those are our 5 basic elements. And that's our second third of the class. And then in the final third, we'll talk about the 3 additional elements of HR, which are fairness, health and safety, and labor relations. So making sure we all understand this very quickly, we understand what is HR, right? It's planning, organizing, leading, controlling, and staffing. And then the 5 elements that Jody just said are the elements of staffing. Can someone tell me, HR, is it line or staff control?
Staff control.
Who says staff?
Christine.
Who?
Christine.
I can't hear you. Please speak louder. Christine. Oh, okay. Christine, so why do you say it's staff authority?
Because they give advice to the managers.
Okay. Juan, what's the difference between line and staff authority?
Oh, no, they don't give it.
Juan, can you tell me the difference between line and staff authority? No? Can't hear you.
So can I answer?
Sure.
The line authority, it's like the hierarchy behind of the authority. So it's like your boss, your managers, your directly person above you. And the staff is as staff authority, as Christine said, is something that gives you the competence to advise, the employee.
Okay, so line authority is direct authority. You can tell people what to do. Staff authority is more advisory. You don't tell people what to do, but you give advice. Okay, and then we talked about some trends that are affecting HR, relevant, but nothing we need to review right now. Last week, we talked about some really important stuff. We talked about really the nature of discrimination and all these different laws. I don't think we need to review all of them now, but I'd like to have a couple of key points. So I'd like to know, Misha, what's the difference between exempt and non-exempt employees?
So non-exempt employees are covered by the FLSA, I believe.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So they're so the non-exempt ones are essentially like blue-collar workers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, we don't really call them that. We say non-exempt, right? Camila, what kind of person is, what kind of job is exempt under the FLSA, generally speaking?
It could be lawyers, doctors that are like exempt, or actually those are non-exempt. Right?
Those are exempt.
Exempt,
Those are
yeah.
exempt.
Non-exempt would be people who work like by hour, so they need to be non.
Okay, so people who are exempt, people who are not exempt are usually people who are hourly workers. People who are exempt, so the law doesn't apply to them, are people who are not hourly workers. They usually, they can work longer hours and they don't need overtime because they get a higher salary anyway. Right? So teachers, doctors, lawyers, architects, engineers, computer software programmers, almost all managers, executives, also people like firefighters, you know, fire people, they're exempt. Okay, so in terms of discrimination, and we have a bunch of laws. We have the first one from, 1866, and then the Title VII from 1964. Then we have the law from 1990. We have a bunch of different anti-discrimination laws. But what we really need to know is the difference between disparate treatment and disparate effect. Chloe, can you tell us that?
The disparate effect is accidental, and the treatment, it's like on purpose. It was meant to be.
Okay, that's good. Ethan, can you expand when she says accidental? What does that mean? How do you accidentally discriminate? You're muted. You're still muted. This is like a fun little mime comedy thing. I enjoy it. Are you doing it on purpose? I like it. I like the acting part of it. Now just unmute yourself. No? I can't tell if you're frozen. You have a smirk on your face. All right. Landry, tell us, what is accidental discrimination? What does that mean?
When the rules of the company accidentally discriminates a group of people, but they didn't intend to.
Okay, so the rules of the company did not intend to affect a group badly or unfairly, but it does affect a group unfairly. How do we know? Can you tell me, Constance, what's the 4/5 rule?
I forgot this.
Can anybody tell me? What's the 4/5 rule?
Isn't it like if you have a certain group of people make up 4/5 of your company, you are likely to be discriminating?
Not just likely, you are.
You are, okay.
If 4/5 of your company is white, you're discriminating. If 4/5 of your company is black, if 4/5 of your company is men, if 4/5 of your company is women, if 4/5 of your company is one type of group of people, there is discrimination. You know, assuming that, and this is the only caveat, the only factor here, assuming that the other groups tried to get jobs in your company. I mean, if the only people who ever applied to your company were women, then you are discriminating, but why haven't men applied? Now, it's possible that you have a very good reason why men didn't apply. You know, for example, it's a female modeling agency. And in this case, when someone sues a company for discrimination, we have two defenses. Abigail, what are our two defenses against discrimination for a company?
The manager.
Sorry?
The manager.
The manager? What about the manager?
Wait, what was the question?
The question was, what are the two defenses? If someone accuses a business of discrimination, the business can say, look, we did discriminate, but we had a good reason. What are the two good reasons to discriminate?
I don't know.
Who can tell us? Harry, can you tell us? The two good reasons, the two okay reasons to discriminate.
Is it to establish a prima facie? Is that one?
Well, to establish a prima facie case, or prima facie, both are okay. If you want to establish a prima facie case, that just means when you accuse someone, the burden of proof shifts to them. So in discrimination, there isn't a prima facie case. There is there is if you have the 4/5 rule, but generally we have that in sexual harassment. But let's say I try to get a job at a university and I don't get the job. And instead they take a woman. And it turns out that almost all of the people who work at this university are women. And I'm angry about that. I want to sue them. They might have a defense. What if, for example, it's an all-women's school? Okay, so it's just all women. All the students are women. All the teachers are women. Now, in that sense, they might have been reasonable to not give me that job. Chandra, what would we call that defense?
You mean business necessity and BFOQ?
So which one is my example? I want to teach in a university. They don't take me because it's a women's university and they only take women.
Oh, maybe business necessity.
Okay. Why is it, and I agree. Why, Crystal, why is it not BFOQ?
Because you say about all women, right? That means males can do the job, but they are not the right person because they are not serving the business purpose.
Okay, good. So I could physically do the job. I have the ability to stand in front of the class and teach. Therefore, it is not BFOQ. BFOQ means someone does not have the ability to do the job. So if I'm hiring you to drive an Uber and you are blind, I will not hire you. Because you can't physically do the job.
David?
Yes.
In the first week, I don't know if maybe I got it wrong, but for BFOQ, we wrote that the essence of the business would be undermined if the business eliminated its discriminating policy.
I think that I must have written that wrong. That's more of a business necessity.
Okay.
The essence of the business is like Hooters. That's their essence, is young, attractive women. Or the essence of a business is a women's school. Or the essence is a religious school. So somebody could do the job, but they're not the right person, as Crystal said. Now, what about in the case where I didn't hire someone? Let's say I'm hiring Uber drivers. And I ask you guys are all interviewing for the job, and I ask you if you have a history of depression. Okay, and one of you says, yes, you have a history of depression. And I don't give you the job. Now, you might be able to sue me for that. What law would you use to sue me? Anybody?
Can you repeat the question?
I didn't give you the job because you said that you have a history of depression.
Would it be American with Disabilities?
Sure. It could be the ADA. What was the law before the ADA that also protected disabilities that were physical.
Title 7?
Title VII didn't really, Title VII protected against everything, but it wasn't specifically targeting disabilities.
So it's a Vocational Rehabilitation Act.
The Vocational Rehabilitation Act was the first one that targeted disabilities. That was 1973. And in that law, they said specifically, you can't discriminate against people who have a disability. And if someone has a disability, you need to make reasonable accommodations. So, Harry, what's a reasonable accommodation?
Reasonable accommodation. So yeah, so if, like, for example, it would be like a ramp outside if you had employees that use wheelchairs.
Sure, that's an example. Can you explain to me?
I've got the description.
Can anybody explain? What's a reasonable accommodation?
Explain, sir.
Yeah.
Taking necessary steps to allow people with disabilities to participate at work equally.
Sure, that's a good definition. Taking necessary steps to allow a person with disabilities to be part of the business. Also, you could just say, accommodate them. Reasonable accommodation. A business has to accommodate people with disabilities unless there's an undue hardship. And that means it would just be too difficult, too expensive, it would take too much time. You know, if, let's say that one of you was depressed and I didn't give you the job driving an Uber car. Now, maybe I need to make a reasonable accommodation for you. And therefore, if you get depressed in the morning, I tell you, okay, you don't have to drive in the morning, you just drive in the afternoon and night. But if you get depressed and whenever you're depressed, you can't drive and it's totally unpredictable, maybe I would say, listen, I can't hire you. That's just too bad for my business to have people who maybe just can't work suddenly and there's no notice and it's an undue hardship. So there's this balance in disabilities between what's a reasonable accommodation, what would a business do to allow someone with a disability to participate, versus what's an undue hardship. Okay, with sexual harassment, say Nicola, what are the two types of sexual harassment?
Sexual harassment can be two types. We are talking about quid pro quo and hostile environment?
Yes, those are generally the two types of complaints that someone could make. They could complain and say there's a hostile environment, or they could complain and say there's a quid pro quo. Those are the two types of complaints. Constance, what does quid pro quo mean?
Quid pro quo, it means that sexual rejection from the employee toward the employer could erase the fact that she might have a promotion or like.
Sure. Well, quid pro quo is just, if you do something for me, I'll do something for you.
Yes.
That's quid pro quo. So it's a trade or an exchange. And it's an exchange that in some way is romantic or intimate or something like that. It could just be, I said, hey, Jody, I will give you a promotion, but only if you wear sexy clothes. Okay, I want you to dress sexy for work, and then I'll give you a promotion. That's it. I'm saying I'll do this for you if you do this. And that's quid pro quo. It doesn't have to be if you go on a date with me. It could just be, I'm telling you, I will give you this if you do this for me. It's an exchange. Hostile environment doesn't involve any kind of bargain or exchange. It's just the environment is very uncomfortable. And that might be that when you go into the cafeteria for lunch, all of the guys are making dirty jokes. They're not asking you to do anything, but they're all making dirty jokes and it makes you very uncomfortable. Or like I used an example of people having a photograph on their desk that is either revealing or something that's, makes people uncomfortable. Having, posters on the walls, having anything like that. It doesn't have to be any kind of exchange, anything that makes people uncomfortable. Now, certainly, if a manager commits sexual harassment, they're in trouble. If an employee commits sexual harassment, they're in trouble. What if a vendor, a supplier, or a customer commits sexual harassment, Camila? Could the manager be in trouble if a supplier or a customer sexually harass an employee?
Yes, the manager can be in trouble.
In what situation?
If it was in the working place?
Well, but let's say I'm the manager, okay? And today a customer came in, okay? Crystal comes into the store, she's our customer. And she sees Jody and she says, oh my God, Jody, you are so sexy. And she makes Jody feel very uncomfortable. Now that's sexual harassment against Jody. And I'm the manager, but I don't know Crystal. I've never seen her before. She just came in and did this. Am I responsible?
Yeah, I think you're only responsible if you, you're supposed to know, right? Like if you know about that situation.
So if Crystal is someone who comes into our store every day and she does this, and Jody told me this makes him uncomfortable, and I didn't do anything about it, now I'm in trouble. But if I'm just a manager and a customer just walks in, I mean, I didn't know that there's nothing I could do to stop that. So it's really about if the manager knew and didn't do anything to stop the situation. Either I ban Crystal from the store, or I tell her you can't speak to my employees that way, or I must do something. Okay, the only other thing we talked about is what kinds of questions you can't ask to someone. And pretty much we said you can't ask anything that's not related to the job, is the simple answer. Nothing about illnesses or being sick or hospital or prison or getting married or children or anything like that. Oh, we didn't talk much about pregnancy right now, but I think that's clear that you can't discriminate based on pregnancy.
Could you like sue someone if they ask you something that sounds harassing in the pre-questions?
Yes, sexual harassment is before, during, or after work. So before the job, if you come in for an interview and I say, whatever I say something about how you look, or I say something that makes you feel uncomfortable, or even you just come in and on my desk are pictures of women that make you feel uncomfortable. That's sexual harassment. It doesn't matter that you don't have the job yet. And even if you leave the job and you call me after you leave, you ask for a letter of recommendation. And I say, oh yeah, but I always liked you. I'll give you a letter, but do you want to go out for me go out for a drink? That's sexual harassment. It doesn't matter that you left the job. So when you're interviewing for the job, and this is true of discrimination too, if our business puts an advertisement in the newspaper, or I guess the internet, that says, women only or something, now the internet website or newspaper can also be guilty of discrimination because they allowed an advertisement to be put on their website. Okay, so now on to today. So now I'd like to start with our presentation on ONET. You guys ready? You have a PPT?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, let me give you the ability to share the screen, okay? So any of you can share and yeah, take, somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes.
Can you see it?
Yes.
So
presentation is about the ONET online. So first of all, ONET is an occupational information network. It's a database provided by the U.S. Department of Labor that can be helpful for companies and like possible applicants for a job. And there is a website that is the ONET online, and it is where this database is available to the public. So basically, you HR managers using the information from the contact model of the website, they can create custom reports on each occupation from the website. So they can better do job analysis, job descriptions, and job specifications. So for example, in the chapter 3 of the book, when we see the interview preparation, it's a good source to become familiar with the job, for example. So it's a powerful tool. Next slide, please, George. Yes, so this is from the website. So here we can see pretty much everything that one position provides to not only for the hiring people, also to those will be hired. So ONET can guide the HR in recruitment, selection, and development process. In short, the website provides deep understanding about the job that they are hiring for. For example, the list of requirements that we can see here, the knowledge about the knowledge that the employee must have, like if they need to know about the Microsoft programs, so like ERP systems and so on. So also the HR can be more accurate in terms of compensation because there is a part in the site that provides information about the salaries in average. So although it's like a US database, so it's not relation to US market, but still it's interest. Now we know a little bit more about how to use the website. That will be Misha.
Thank you. So my part was how to use ONET. You know, I wish we had this type of thing in high school so we could actually select and like know about what job we would do later on. But when you actually go on ONET, you can browse by several categories, which you have on screen there. You can browse by abilities, interests, knowledge, you know, skills, blah, 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 all of that type of stuff. For example, if I don't know, you're deaf, for example, you can't really, you know, instead of browsing by sensory, you'd rather browse by physical, and that'd be like, I don't know, mining coal, I suppose. So this definitely helps, especially people with disabilities, to choose their job, people with some specific requirements, and just in general, like if you think what you're good at, just go, you can just browse jobs like that. Can you go to the next slide, please? So like, for example, since we're studying HR, I actually chose, so here we can see, I actually chose to browse by skills. And this is what popped up for the resource management skills. So I click on skills, I click on resource management skills, and there it gave me all these, again, different categories. It's all very, very specific, right? So this gives you management of financial, material, personnel resources, or time management. So since we're studying HR, I think I chose personnel resources. And can you go to the next slide, please? Right, no, just kidding. I chose financial resources. So when you choose that category, it shows you all these different jobs. You can see occupation in the sort of like a little bit to the right of the middle, all the different occupations that you can select that relate to the skill of managing financial resources. So you can actually sort them by importance, which is like how important to the society the job is. So like CEOs, managers, controllers, or you can sort them by level, which I assume that's how difficult the job is to perform. They didn't really give a definition of what level is. So you can see here, for example, education administrators, CEOs, treasurers, that's all super important people. Also, you can probably see the little green leaf over there. That denotes that the job is, well, like environmentally positive and will be very good for the future. Same with the sun. It says bright outlook. That means that a growth in this occupation is expected in sometime soon. So you should probably study to get that job. Can we go to the next slide, please? So this is for human resource managers. When you actually click on the occupation, and there's like thousands and thousands of them there, and this is just the general human resource manager occupation. So right below, you see where it says summary, it shows you like tasks, technology skills, tools used, knowledge, abilities, all that type of stuff that you need to pretty much know everything about the job of a human resource manager. And you can also see in the upper right corner, it's also bright outlook, which means that the occupations are expected to grow in the future, like I said. So you can, browse literally any job like that. It's all very specific. There's education counselors, there's coal miners, there's scientists, all sorts of different occupations. And it gives you all of this good information, like even wages, employment, job zones, all that type of stuff. I think that's it. Next slide. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so the last one I will talk about the benefits of ONET. The first one is a platform find up-to-date information. So it means it's the newest and up-to-date information you can find about your occupation that you intend to. The second one, a safe platform, since it's sponsored by US Department of Labor, Employment and Training Administration. So here it means it is trusted and no false information. The third one, it is very beneficial for HR may use this ONET information to create custom reports on its occupation. The fourth one, a variety of jobs information can be found through ONET, about 1,100 jobs. The last one, the fifth one, ONET provides free resource of job analysis, job descriptions, and job specifications. This means you can find about the wages information, also educational requirements, like you graduated from high school or from a university. And the last one is the characteristic requirements from the company that you intend to. The last one is creating the selection process to be more standardized and scientific. So here, for example, here you can find you can put your keyword for your occupation that you're intending to. Here, here, can you see here? You can put and you can type it. There are so many jobs here. Yes, it's done.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. So again, one of you please email that to me so I can put it up online. Good. So ONET is a very, very important resource. And it does behoove everybody to take a look at it, right? Let's just take a second and look at it together. One of the very few, I don't want to share this. One of the very few wonderful benefits of Zoom is that we can look at stuff together if we want. So, what is it? Oh, onetonline.org, right? Right, just to give you an idea of what it looks like. So, you know, you can start right here. I want to be A, and that's it. This is an amazing feature right here that wasn't mentioned. You know, if you don't know what kind of job you're thinking of, and this is so true for so many university students, you just click right here and you start looking at what kind of job might be right for you. Hot technologies, if you don't know what to do, are things that are, you know, looking to have a very bright outlook in the future. You can just go to find occupations. You can look at what's popular in the future. Different clusters, like the different sector, the agricultural sector, the engineering sector, the green technology sector. You can look at the green economy. You can look by industry. STEM is very popular now. That's, I think, science, technology, and something else. I don't know. They talk about it a lot. Crosswalk is more for people who, it's like an intersection of military and work or education and work. But I'd say at the beginning, you just type in any job up here, or you just go to I want to be. I think that's probably the best recommendation. Or you go to find occupations, you know, but it's a pretty, like, there's not that much on the web page. You know, it's not too crazy busy. So it is something that's worth taking a look at. ONET is used by HR people all the time. And we use it really for all of the stuff that we talk about in today and in next class, this idea of how do we create a job analysis. So we're going to get to that next class, but really the idea is when we need to look for someone to come in and do a job, we need to create an advertisement for the job. We need to know all about the job. What are the skills? What are the abilities? What should they be paid? All of that information, and that's all on ONET. Now for you guys, since you don't work in HR yet, ONET is really valuable if you are ever looking for a job. So let's say that one of you guys decides you're looking on the internet and there's a job that is let's say it's a consultant, okay? So there's a Chinese company and they're offering a good job and it's a consultant job. Now, right now, could you write an excellent cover letter for that? Probably not. So maybe you guys go on the internet and you learn how to write a cover letter. Okay, the first paragraph, you should say this, and the second paragraph, you should say this. But here's the thing. As an HR manager, I'm going to get hundreds of letters applying or emails applying for a job. And very quickly, I'm going to know who is someone who actually did research and who is someone who just wants a job. Most of you guys would probably send me an email saying, you know, dear HR manager, I want this job and I am a student at CIP and in my life I have helped many people. I was on the student council, or you'll tell me about something you did in your life. But the point is, you're not using the right vocabulary. For a consultant, what is the right vocabulary? You know, you go to OOH, and let's say we type in consultant, we get a whole bunch of different consultants. So let's say we're talking about, what kind of consultant do we want? Let's say we'll talk about all others. So a business consultant, some sort of business specialist. No, let's try a different one. Let's do a management analyst. Okay, so now here's a management analyst job. Now, if you're applying for this job, what should you talk about in your interview? What should you write in your cover letter? I would say that information is right here. Your knowledge, your skills, your abilities, your activities. This is the stuff you talk about in the cover letter. So in the cover letter, you say, you know, I understand how to consider relative costs and benefits. I can convey information effectively. I can ask appropriate questions and not interrupt. My knowledge is based on training, design, teaching, and instruction. You know, this vocabulary, if you use this in a cover letter, then when you apply for a job, somebody in HR would look at this and say, oh, this person understands this job. Also, if they say to you, you know, how much money do you want? You can never say, oh, it doesn't matter. A lot of people say that in their first job interview. Oh, it doesn't matter. I'll work for anything. I just want the experience. That's a lie, and we know it's a lie. Everybody knows it's a lie. You know, you need to give them a number, and the number you give them has to show you did research. So in HR, that's a very common, it's not like a trick, but sort of. So if you're applying for a job and I say, okay, Camila, so what is your expected salary? If you don't know the answer to that, I know you didn't do research. Because a lot of people say like, oh, I don't know. I just, you know, I just want the experience. I'm pretty comfortable with anything. That's the wrong answer.
Give like a range of numbers? Or
Yes, that is totally fine. To say I'm looking for something between 50 and 65,000 a year to start. Totally fine. You can actually be very clear based on using ONET, and you could say something like, I'm looking to start around 40,000 a year with a promotion within 6 months and a salary raise within 8 months. Whatever ONET says, the more that you can say this to, look, this is how professionals talk. You know, nobody after college, except for your first job, nobody just goes and says, hey, I'll do anything for any money. You know, once you get to be a professional, you ask for what you expect you should get. And you ask questions about promotions and benefits and raises and things like that. And you get that information from ONET. So when you guys are applying for jobs, definitely go to ONET, find the job, and use some of that vocabulary in your cover letter and in your interview, because it really will show the HR manager that you understand this job. Okay, next week, how about, there was a group that was what? Crystal, Chandra, and who?
Christine.
Christine, okay, Crystal, Chandra, Christine, you guys are next week, okay? Is that a yes? Okay, your subject for next week is similar to this week. It's another website that you need to know, and that's called OOH. Okay, Christine, Chandra, and Crystal. So same thing as today's presentation, you know, make that kind of PPT, explain to us, and especially I also want to know what's the difference between OOH and ONET, because in HR we use both of them. They're both like the big two sites, websites that we use in HR. It's really important that you guys understand these websites. You know, if you get a job out of college and they want you to help them hire someone, if you can go to ONET and OOH, you're so far ahead of someone else who just makes an advertisement and says, yeah, we're looking for someone good. Come be part of our family. Come join our team. Like that's just noise compared to a real advertisement. Okay, so now let's get on to today's lesson. How many of you guys watched the video? Did any of you watch the video? Yeah, okay. Some of you did. Okay, so let's start with this question. Harry, what's the difference between quantitative and qualitative?
What, like quantitative, can it be measured? Like one can be measured, and is that right?
Yes, quantitative can be measured with numbers. They can both sort of be measured, but quantitative means using numbers.
Oh, yeah,
and
right.
What's qualitative then, Harry?
Well, I guess if quantitative is numbers, then qualitative should be facts, maybe, or like historic data.
Opinions.
Opinions, okay.
So quant is numbers. Qual, like quality, is opinions. Opinions of who? Well, generally we have two choices, either opinions of experts, people who've worked in this field for a long time, or opinions of the customers, right? The group of people who we're selling something to. So qualitative data is either some sort of expert opinion or the mass audience opinion. And quantitative is anything with numbers. When we talk about HRM, we need both of them. We need both quantitative and qualitative because we need numbers in order to be able to measure satisfaction, productivity, efficiency, effectiveness, all of that stuff. But then we also need to understand quality. And that's something we're talking a lot about today. So one of the first things we talk about with HR is when we're part of the strategy, we need to be the ethical or moral voice in a company. So we're going to start with a little activity, which I put online. Does anybody have the values and ethics activity? Let me give it to you in case you don't have it.
Is this the forced choices?
No, we're not at forced choices yet. This is values and ethics activity, which should be under week 3, but I'll give it to you right now. I'll just put it in the chat. Okay, it is now in the chat. So please open it up and let's take a look at this values and ethics activity because we didn't do it last week. And what I'd like you to do, so I can share my screen so we can all see it. So the following activity helps to identify our personal values. And what I'd like you to do is take, a minute right now, and I'm going to put you guys into breakout groups. And I'd like you to talk about these questions. You don't need to write this down. I'm not testing you on this. I just want you to have a brief conversation about these. What are your personal achievements? What's a personal failure? Don't say anything personal that you're not comfortable with. This is not therapy. I'm not asking you to unburden your soul. What's one thing that other people can do to make you happy? What's one thing you can do to make other people happy? Okay, everybody download this? You got it?
Yes.
Okay, let me put you into breakout groups. Okay, and just discuss these things. I'll give you about, maybe 3 minutes just to go through these, and then we're going to talk about some of the answers together. Hey guys. So, okay, will one of you share your screen so you can all see the question, unless you all have it on your computer?
Is it working?
Yes. Let's start with number 3, maybe. What's something other people can do to make you happy?
If they're happy.
Okay, they can be happy.
Is it related only like, professional stuff or like
No.
personal?
Smiling, giving you a gift, saying, hey buddy,
For me, it's
anything.
like someone invites me to drink.
Sure.
I'm very happy with this.
I just feel like if people around you are happy, it makes you happy as well. Because if the energy is not the same, then you cannot relate to them.
Okay, so people can be positive.
Yeah.
What's something you guys can do to make other people happy? Okay, talk about some of these questions.
I was like pouring out my soul, and then turns out I was muted.
Maybe I repeat.
3 things that you like to be said about you if you died today. It's kind of personal.
What about number 6?
Okay, that's a good one. If you had unlimited time and money was a problem, would you work to improve? Unlimited time and money. Probably healthcare and education. Those are the 2 things. I'd spend a lot of money on cancer research and definitely education. Give everybody a chance to get a good education.
Like not being that good in Chinese or something like that. Like I've been here for a while and still haven't been, you know, up to the level that I should be or something.
Yeah, I think that's one I also have.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't think of anything else. I don't know.
Same here, like maybe about mathematics. It's very hard for me. And then always trying to find like tutor.
Yeah.
What is the one thing that other people can do to make you happy?
Listen to you, maybe. I don't know, just like, yeah, listening to my story. Yeah, it makes me happy. Yeah.
Yeah, just being there for me, or like it just knowing that I have like a support system, or yeah.
What is the thing, one thing that you do to make other people happy?
Also being there for them.
Yeah, support them.
Included in education.
Right, because like,
well, it's a very broad
really go to college, did they?
Wait, what about ecology? I mean, you need a planet to do all the stuff.
Yeah, that's a good idea too.
All right, I'm going to close the room, so let's all get back together and discuss some of this stuff. Okay, good. So I don't need to hear everybody's answers, but what I do want to ask is, why are some of these questions important in HR? The idea of knowing what your own personal successes and failures have been, why might that be important for an HR manager to kind of know about themselves? Any thoughts?
Is it to, you know, since every company has a vision, you need sort of everybody having like a similar vision and therefore kind of a similar values, I suppose.
Okay.
I would say it's about empathy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I have my problems, so maybe I should, you know, have try to get the another person point of view, be in that place, in their place, and so on. Try to not judge.
Empathy is very true. In HR, remember, people are coming to your office sometimes because they're having trouble. People spend a lot of their life at work. A great amount of their life is spent at work. And some of people's greatest successes and failures happen at work. Whether they got a promotion, or they achieved an award, or they made some big business deal happen, or they got rich, or, you know, all of these things happen at work. And a lot of people's greatest failures happen at work too. They didn't get that client, they didn't get that case, they lost that money, they didn't get that promotion, they didn't get that raise. These are the kind of things where people come to HR. And it's very important for us to consider, what is a success and what is a failure? What do those things mean? Is something a failure if, you know, just because we failed at it now doesn't mean it's a failure. It's just something we're not happy about right now. In HR, we do need to have empathy, but we also need to understand the nature of success and failure, what these words mean. The idea of making someone happy, questions 3 and 4, right? This is very important at work because in HR, so sometimes people come into our office to talk to us. They're having a tough time at work and they're upset, and we need to be able to talk to them about what is a success really? What is a failure really? Now, other times we're not working with employees, we're working with managers. Remember, we're the experts on human nature, not managers. So we need to work with managers and teach them how to make their employees happy. And one of the ways we do that is by thinking about what makes us happy. What are the things that people can do that make us feel good? And then how do we explain that to a manager and get the manager to do that? The next questions, 5, 6, 7, are all similar. If you had 1 year to live, if you died today, if you were, lived forever and had unlimited money, these are questions about who do you want to be? Because in HR, we also work with career planning. And part of our job is that when people come into the company, we know they might not stay here forever. But one of the reasons that we can get very good people to come to our company is because we're helping to guide their future. So this is your first job out of college. Okay, but what do you really want to be in 20 years, in 10 years? If you died today, what would people say about you? Who do you really want to be? What are the big problems in the world you would like to help with? These kind of big career goal, lifetime goal related ideas are also what can help us to be very good at HR. Now, the reason that we do all of this is because ultimately we're trying to get quality. And that was the next thing we talked about. What is quality? So can somebody tell me a high quality product? What's a product that's high quality? Yes, Anais, what is that?
This is my phone.
And is that a high quality product?
It used to be. I damaged it a little bit, but I bought it for the quality. So.
Okay, so what makes it high quality?
The technology it uses, how it looks for me, how it functions, the things it can do.
Okay, so it does what it is intended to do, and it does that well. It does that fast. It has...
Also, how easy it is to use compared to other smartphones.
Okay, so it's, these are some ideas about quality. Quality is a product that does what it's supposed to do, that does it well, that looks good, that is reliable, that is easy to use. Can somebody else tell me another high quality product?
About the time of use.
About what? Give me an example.
Like, for example, a kitchenware. You can use it for like 20 years, like 10 years.
Okay, so like kitchenware, if you buy high quality knives, for example, you might be able to use them for 20 years or use them for the rest of your life. So very reliable, very durable. Constance, can you tell me another high quality product? Give me another example.
That the way the phone is made matches his price.
Give me an example besides a phone or a kitchen knife. Tell me something else that actually you could buy that's high quality.
Like a leather jacket of a good quality.
Okay. So a leather jacket, an expensive leather jacket might be high quality. What makes that high quality?
The way it's manufactured, the textile that they used.
Sure, the materials. So they use the best quality materials. Sure. What about a car? A Porsche, a Lamborghini, are these high quality products?
Not necessarily.
They're expensive though. Chloe, would you say a Porsche is a high quality car?
I would say it depends on people's opinion, because not everyone wants to have a car, not everyone wants to have a Porsche. If you're ready to give that much money into a car, it might be a high quality product for you. But if you don't really care about it, it's just a car.
So you're saying high quality is subjective.
Yeah.
If a knife is good quality, it just is. If a leather jacket is good quality, it just is. Maybe I don't want to wear it, but it's still good quality. So maybe you're saying a Porsche is not necessarily good quality. Chloe, tell me a car that is good quality.
No, I think it is.
Okay, because quality should be pretty much objective. Tell me, Chloe, a service that's high quality.
When you travel, someone that is providing you transportation from point A to point B.
So like a
Since you're in the
limousine
car-
service?
Sorry, what?
Like a limousine service?
Yeah, B.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody else can tell me a high quality service?
I would say maybe like a BPN. A BPN service, I would say is a high quality service.
Well, not all of them, but some of them might be high quality.
Yeah.
I would say the company Heidi Lau.
Heidi Lau is a pretty high quality for what they do. Sure.
Singapore Airlines.
Sure. So certain airlines are high quality, certainly like a Michelin star restaurant. When we think of the highest quality service, that's usually what we're talking about. Something like a Michelin star restaurant, something that is absolutely at the absolute top, a five-star hotel. You know, something that's at the very top of the VIP service. That's really high quality service. Now, we want to understand quality because when we talk about strategic human resource management, our goal in HR is to provide quality. That's what we're trying to do, to get quality people. Okay, let's take a look at the Carter Cleaning Company. So I don't know if you downloaded that, but let me put it into the chat. We're doing now Carter Cleaning Company 3. Okay, so I put it into the chat. Please feel free to open it. Take a minute. If you see on the paper, it's the part on the bottom, not the top, just the bottom, where it says the Carter Cleaning Company, the high quality work system. So I'll give you a couple minutes. Please read this. And then let's talk about questions 1 and 2. Okay. So let's talk about these. Misha, what do you think? Do you think they should change their quality management program?
Well, with the whole like team meetings, it seems to be working fine.
Seems to be working fine. So then, Landry, why should they make any changes? Or should they?
I think if, let's say, each workers are responsible for one or two machines, they'll have less time in those meetings, because they just need to ask someone from that area, and then they just save time.
Okay. Jonathan. Hello, Jonathan.
Yeah, sorry, I overslept. It's like 3
That's
in the
okay.
morning here.
Chandra, what do you think? Should they use their quality system?
Yeah, I think there should be some things to change, because it seems like they are not really following the company rules, and I don't think the company's goals has been set yet. Like, they should find better alternatives, and like they should communicate better and measure to develop employees' competency. Maybe it seems like they are not. Yeah.
So in a lot of ways, that's very much sort of, I think Chandra's asking the right question. Because the question is, what is the aim of this company? Is the Carter Cleaning Company doing okay right now? Yeah, they're doing fine. You know, Jack has these meetings once in a while, whenever there's a problem, you know, and he pays the people, you know, so if they give an example that recently some of their white blouses were getting damaged. So Jack had a meeting and he solved the problem. Great. Why do they need anything else? Well, Jennifer, she studied HR in school. And so what she learned is that quality programs are not about fixing the problems you have right now. They're not about putting out the fires. They're about figuring out what is the strategic aim of your company so that you can achieve that. And the problem is, in the Carter Cleaning Company, Jack never thought about it. His aim was to make some money. So he opened up a store, they made money. He opened up another store, they made money, cool. But they're not going to be able to take this much farther if they don't have a clear goal. So we talked a lot in the video about the idea of goals, and particularly the hierarchy of goals. Can anybody tell me what is the hierarchy of goals?
Goals come from the top of the organization and go down to line staffers.
Good. So the idea of the hierarchy of goals is that there's an unbroken chain from the top to the bottom of a company. Now, in the video, we went through this picture, for example, that we start with the company's goals. And from the goals, that tells us what kind of people do we need. So if Jack's goal is he wants to open up his business and now they want to iron clothes and maybe they even want to fix clothes and do some alterations on clothes. Maybe they even want to design clothes, who knows, whatever they want to do. He needs to figure out what kind of employee competencies he wants, what kind of behaviors he needs from his employees. Once we know that, then we can start to figure out how are we going to recruit and select people? You know, how are we going to deal with labor relations? How are we going to deal with paying people? What's going to be our legal environment? All of these details about HR. If we start to think of those at the beginning, we don't even know what we're looking for. We always have to begin with the company's goals. And the goals are in a hierarchy, all the way from the top to the bottom. Everybody in the company should know the goals. So if Jack's goal is that he wants to expand and have 10 new stores in the next 5 years, everybody at his stores should know that, right? So everybody in the organization can be part of the goals. And in that way, not only will Jack achieve his goals more quickly, but maybe these people can be promoted. So in order to have this sort of hierarchy of goals, we have a planning process. So we talked in the video about the very basic planning process. So let's say that Christine wants to get an internship. Okay, Christine, I think in CIP, did you have your internship yet, Christine?
I'm doing something like an internship right now.
Okay, so let's say that you were looking for your internship. Now, the first thing we need to do when we're setting goals, when we're making a plan, is pretty much we need objectives. So you need to know what you want, right? You want an internship. Then you need to make a forecast to assess, can you get this internship? Do you have the option in China? Do you need to go to another country? How many businesses are there? Then you look at the alternatives, you evaluate the alternatives, and then you implement it. That's the basic idea of a planning process. Now, in strategic HRM, we add a little bit to that. So because we need to figure out how to contribute to the strategy of a company, we in HR have staff authority, not line authority. So we don't tell the CEO what to do. We don't make the goals for the company, but we contribute a lot to this. So I talked in the video about what happens when you don't have HR contribute. Camila, can you tell me, in your opinion, what happens when the CEO of a company makes a goal, but HR is not really involved in that goal?
Oh, then he cannot really communicate with the staff because the HR manager is the one who actually knows about like how to like move the staff. So in order to achieve the goals, the manager needs to have a connection.
Okay, so the HR managers are the ones who understand the employees and the staff. If the CEOs have some goal that involves the employees, and they want different employees to do things differently, be polite to customers, be friendly, whatever they want the employees to do, they can make this decision. We want from now on, every employee must do this every morning. But HR, we're the ones who know the employees. So if they don't involve us in the decisions, they're much less likely to be successful. You know, we're the ones who know the employees. We know what they're willing to do, what they're going to do, what their behaviors are. So that's one thing that's very important. And another thing that's very important is when the CEO or the managers have some big strategy and they want to hire new people. We're the ones who are doing the hiring. If we don't know their strategy, we're going to get the wrong people because we don't know what they want. So the process of strategic planning looks like this. It's this 7-step process. Now, when we did management class, we had the same sort of idea. This is the strategic management process. This is not specifically an HR process. This is just management. But the question is really, where does HR get involved in this? So if we talk about a product, so what's a product that we could sell? Who can tell me a product? Chloe, can you think of a product that we could sell? What's something you would sell in China?
Clothes?
Okay, great. Clothing. So the first thing we would need to do is define our business. Now, are we HR involved in that? Well, in this first step, and we'll go through these step by step, for your midterm and your final exam, I will expect you to understand where does HR fit into these 7 steps. That's pretty important to me. You know, so that when you get a job after you graduate and you're working with a company, you can tell them, you know, I studied HR and here's where I can help in your process. So the first step, define the current business. Now in management, we looked at something like this. Everybody remember a business canvas model? Where does this begin, Crystal?
Value purpose.
Good. So we start with the value proposition. We sell clothing. That's what we do. But we need to be a little more clear. Do we sell, what makes our clothing more valuable? Are we selling clothing for children? Is our clothing all environmentally friendly? Is that it? Is our clothing very soft and very expensive cotton? What is it that makes us valuable? It could be that our clothing is cheap. It could be that we have really cool designs. Whatever it is, that's what makes us valuable. Now in HR, are we the ones who decide what we're selling?
No, of course not.
No, we're not deciding what we're selling, right? So the next is customer relationships. Does HR have anything to do with customer relationships?
No.
Well, why not?
I mean, indirectly. I mean, you're responsible for the people that do manage customer relationships, but you're not directly involved in them.
Okay, in what way are we involved with customers in HR?
Well, you
Anybody?
hire and manage the people, well, the employees that do facilitate those relationships. So if you hire a certain person with certain attributes, you're directly or indirectly involved in how they treat customers.
So a little bit. I mean, we're involved with the employees, certainly. I would say for customers, HR is where we handle the quantitative information on customer satisfaction. We know if the customers are satisfied. If there are complaints, usually HR is going to have all those complaints. We're the ones who are giving out surveys. We're the ones who are calling up customers and saying, were you happy with the service? That's HR.
Isn't that marketing?
I mean, it's part of it, but HR is really keeping the customer satisfaction ratings. Marketing may also do the surveys for us, but most evaluation happens within HR. Because there is a relationship with the employees. In terms of partnerships, resources, activities, that's not really HR. Cost revenue, that's not really HR. With HR, we're only involved with customers. In step 2, which is the SWOT diagram, external and internal, where does HR fit in this? So first of all, for the SWOT diagram, which is external, which is internal? Abigail, can you tell me SWOT, which are internal, which is external?
Can you repeat the question?
For the SWOT diagram, which two elements are internal and which two elements are external?
Where is the diagram showing?
Sorry?
Is there any diagram showing?
No. I'm asking you about a SWOT diagram. You must have learned about a SWOT diagram. Juan, tell us about a SWOT diagram. What does SWOT stand for? You're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's strengths, opportunities, threats, and I forgot the other one.
What's W?
Weaknesses.
Weakness. Strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats. Fine. And which ones are internal? Somebody tell me which ones are internal.
Strength and weakness.
Strength and weakness, right? That's talking about the company, our strengths and our weaknesses. And opportunities and threats are external. That's outside the company. What are the opportunities in the marketplace? What are the threats in the environment, not inside the company? Now, where is HR in this? Well, for opportunities and threats, HR is expected to understand some things about the environment. So what is HR supposed to know about the environment outside the company? We're supposed to understand the economic trends, You know, if you're in, how many people are getting jobs? How many people are looking for jobs? What are the current market trends? What's the compensation? What are the salaries, the benefits, the incentives? What are the packages being given to people in this environment? What are the political or technological, social, geographic trends? I said, these are all of the things that are important in HR. That was part of our first lesson. So when the CEO of a company wants to understand more about the environment, so if we're selling clothes, should we open up a store or should we do it all on Taobao? Should we do it in Shanghai or Suzhou or Hangzhou? Where should we do it? Should we market towards kids or adults? What should, you know, all of that information about, well, what are other people in the market doing? That's the information HR would have about different trends. So what about internal strengths and weaknesses? What do we know in HR about strengths and weaknesses? Jody, can you tell me, what do we know in HR about the strengths and weaknesses of the company? What's our primary area of knowledge in HR? What do we know about?
For the strength is and weakness is about the labor.
Okay, so the thing that we know most about in HR is the human resources, right? The people. So that's what we know about in HR. For the external part of SWOT, we in HR have knowledge about our competition. We know how much money they're giving their people. We understand some survey data from the employees, if they're happy or not. We understand customers' complaints. We understand the laws. There's a lot of information that we have that is outside the company. If the CEO doesn't involve HR, then there's a lot of information the CEO doesn't have. They could say, you know, Jack could say, we want to open 10 new businesses. But does he know what other businesses are paying their people? Does he know if the employees are happy? Does he know what the customer complaints are? I mean, he only knows right now because he visits these places. He only has 5 places. He visits them. What happens when he has 20 places or 50 places? He can't visit them all. At that point, you really need to understand HR. Now, internally, in terms of the strengths and weaknesses, what we know in HR is the people. We know the employees. We know their competencies, what they're good at. We know their skills. That's going to be very important for us. So HR is going to be involved in this step. This is the second step out of 7. And that is the SWOT analysis. Okay, in terms of the next step, step 3, formulating a new direction, creating a vision statement. Well, in HR, we need to understand the vision, right? So a vision statement is where the company wants to be in the future, right? The vision that they have of the world. And you don't need to write this stuff down because this is not something that HR is really involved in. We really work with the people, and we work with the environment and understanding what's going on with our competition. Who are they recruiting? Who are they selecting? How much are they paying? Who are they training? That's the kind of stuff that we know. But the next step for a company to design their strategy is to be able to create a vision and a mission statement. So a vision statement is someday the world will be like this. And a mission statement is every day, the way the world is because of us. And of course, these are both very, very broad goals. So Tesla, they're changing the whole world. Toyota, the future of mobility, lives around the world, right? These very big, broad statements. However, HR does get involved in the next step. In step 4 is where we take these mission statements, these vision statements, and we start to narrow them into strategic goals. Now, so if Ford's mission statement, quality is job 1. The most important thing is quality. That's Ford's mission statement. Now, HR is not really involved in that. Why would HR, though, be involved in their strategic goal? They want no more than 1 defect per 10,000 cars. So HR is not involved in the mission, but HR is involved in the strategy because the strategy involves the employees. That's where we find out how productive are the employees? How efficient are they? How happy are they? Are the customers complaining? Are the vendors complaining? Are the employees coming on time? Are they being late? Are they quitting? Are they showing up late? What are they not good at that we need to get training and train them to do better? So all of this area of taking the mission statement of the company and really turning it into strategic goals, we are involved in that. And that is also, that's step 4, but that is also step 5. Step 4 and step 5. So what is our course of action to achieve our goals, our strategic goals? Well, maybe we're going to open, so Ford wants to open high-tech plants. How are we in HR involved in that? Of course, we need to hire the new employees who will work there. Or we need to train the employees we have to do this job. So we need to recruit people. We need to select people. We need to train people. We need to design a compensation system. How much will we pay them? We need to evaluate people. What if we want to reduce the number of car lines? We're going to have to fire people or let people go. What if we want to partner with other companies? HR is very important when it comes to partnering, because one of the biggest reasons that partnerships don't work is that the employees can't get along with each other. What often happens in a partnership is you have somebody who was the manager, and then we partner with another company, and now there's another manager. And both of them can't have the same power in the company. And there tends to be a lot of power struggles. The employees aren't the ones who are the problem. It's the managers when we talk about a merger or an acquisition. So in HR, we're the ones who have to settle these power disputes. When you have, now you had a marketing department in our company and you had a marketing department in this other company, and we merge together, we partner with them. What if we streamline and now we only have one? We only have one marketing department now. Well, there were 2 marketing directors. One of them's got to stop being the director, and that's going to be a problem. Step 6. Step 6 is implement. We're not really involved in implementation. Okay, that's more the CEOs. They decide what strategy they want. They decide what they're going to do. However, step 7, the fly. Step 7, we are very much involved in evaluation. Anytime there's evaluation in a company, we are really a big part of that in HR. We are the ones who help to set the benchmarks. What is effectiveness or productivity or satisfaction? What are the good standards? What is the best practice in the industry, in the other companies in our environment? How much are they paying people? How many people are quitting their companies? And how effective are they? How many customer complaints do they get? And then we want to be able to have that same kind of benchmark. So in the overall strategic plan, where is HR really, really involved? We're really involved in step 2 with the external and the internal part of the strategy. We're really involved with step like 4 and 5 with making sure we help to achieve the goals and the courses of action by figuring out what do the employees need to do. And we're very involved with step 7 with evaluation. Is that clear?
I have a question.
Yes.
If in order to implement strategies, you need people to implement those strategies, but you need to get the people first. Shouldn't HR have like sort of like an advanced knowledge about like the plans of the company? Like shouldn't they know before anyone else what the plan of top management should or will be in order to hire?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's really the point here. The point is that when the CEOs or the senior vice presidents or the upper level management, the executives of the company want to make decisions and have meetings about their future plans, HR should be represented in those meetings from the very beginning, so that we can be closely involved in helping to guide them to know what is the competition in the market, what are we capable of doing right now with the people we have, so that when they throw out ideas, we in HR can say, oh, that's a good idea. We have Susan in marketing and she has that background. Oh, that's a good idea. We have Peter in accounting and he could do that. Oh, but we don't have anybody who could do that. If you want to do that, let us know. We can try to get some people. You know, we're the ones who kind of temper their executive plans. And they say, well, what about doing this? And we say, oh, that's a good idea. You know, there's another clothing industry in Shanghai, another company that's doing that, and they have 6 people working for them, and they pay this amount of money. And, you know, we have a lot of information about what they can and can't do, what would be reasonable courses of action. Is that clear for everybody? Any other questions? No? Okay, let's take a short break. Take a 10-minute break. We're an hour and a half in, and we have the next thing to do is strategy. So we'll take a break. We'll come back at in 10 minutes.
David, at what time does this class finish?
This is, I mean, earliest 10:30.
Okay.
What time is it now?
9:30.
9:30, okay.
We are now recording again. So the next part of the class that I wanted to talk about is strategy, corporate strategy. So far, we've talked about why HR is involved in strategy, right? Because the CEO, the executives, they can't really make a plan without knowing what the company is capable of, what the people are capable of, or what kind of people they need. Who should they hire? Who should they fire? We really need to be involved. And for that reason, we also need to understand types of strategies. Now, a lot of this should be review from management, but I do want to make sure that you know it. So when we talk about types of strategies, we're talking about corporate level, and then we're talking about competitive strategies. So at the corporate level, so that we can participate, there are 2 basic strategies called diversification and integration. So let's talk about diversification first. What does it mean to diversify? We know the word diversity, right? Like in when we're hiring people, we need to make sure we hire diverse people. So what does it mean for a company to diversify? Anybody tell?
Some product.
Chloe, say that again.
It's to add some product.
Sure. So if we diversify, we add some products, or it could be adding some services, right? Maybe before we were teaching English, now we also teach French. That would be diversification. It's another product, it's another language. And when we talk about diversification, there are 2 kinds. There's related diversification and unrelated diversification. So what's the difference between these 2? Both of them are adding new products or services. Anais, what's the difference between related and unrelated diversification?
Related diversification is when you add something that you are like something that's related to your business. For example, if cinema company, like something that shows movies, can also start creating movies. And
okay.
Unrelated.
So let's just talk about that first, related. So with related diversification, it's 2 possibilities. Let's say Anais's example was, let's say we show movies, we're movie theaters, and we want to bring a new product. So maybe our new product will be popcorn. Popcorn is related to movies. And we're going to sell it to the same customers that we had before. And alternative is we don't bring in a new product, but we bring in new customers, right? That could be related diversification. So before we showed movies only to children. And now at night, we've added adults, R-rated movies. Or we used to teach English only to children, and now we've added adult classes. So our product is really the same. We're still teaching English, we're still showing movies, but we have new customers. That's related. And unrelated is when it has to do with working with another company, partnering with another company. So that we show movies, we have people come and watch our movies, and then we also work with Juan's family company, and Juan's family, they sell shoes. Now it's not related to movies at all. But we say, okay, Juan, you could set up a little store inside our movie theater because we have all these customers and all this foot traffic and they're coming in. And maybe somebody will buy some of your shoes and, they have time before they watch their movie. So we could work with you. So that's unrelated diversification. But either way, diversification, which is horizontal, diversification involves either selling a new product or bringing in new customers. And it could be something related to our business or unrelated to our business. Now, integration. Integration is vertical, and it could be forward or backwards. So most companies, or all companies really, will forward integrate first, right? The order that these things happen pretty much always is related diversification first. Then, once you have enough customers, when we start showing movies, first, we need to get more products, more movies, or more customers until we get big enough. Once we're big enough, then Juan's family wants to work with us. So then we start unrelated diversification because we have enough customers. Now we're making money. And so once we have money, we can go to forward integration. So what does forward integration mean? Anybody tell me?
Taking away the distribution.
Good. So we're going to take over the distribution. So in the case of movies, maybe at the beginning, we were sending our movies to other movie houses around Shanghai. But instead, once we have enough money, let's open movie houses, movie theaters ourselves. And then we can distribute our movies ourselves. And then we can save money. But of course, it costs some money to do that. And then finally, once we have enough money, we go to backwards integration. So what is backwards integration?
Get rid of suppliers.
Good. So for backward integration, we get rid of the manufacturers or suppliers. So we would, rather than buying the movies, we make the movies ourselves. Or rather than hiring, buying textbooks to teach English, we make the textbooks ourselves. So generally, this is the order. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Depending on when a company has enough money, that they're able to start with related, then unrelated, then forward integration, then backward integration. So that is corporate level strategy. With HR, we do need to be familiar with this idea that this is really what the executives are looking at doing. They're looking at doing one of these 4 things. Then with HR, because we understand the external atmosphere, the environment, the other competitors in the industry, we need to understand something about competitive strategy. And there are pretty much 3 kinds of strategy. If you remember, this comes from Porter. Porter's 3 strategies. So cost leadership, differentiation, and focus. Cost leadership is, let's see, Christine, can you explain cost leadership to us? No? I can't hear you. Oh, your mic is muted.
I thought I was. Yeah. So it's like having a low price in the industry, but it's not necessarily the lowest. So it's like just an affordable
Okay,
price.
so close. It's not about having a low price. It's about having a low what?
Cost, production costs.
Low cost. So what's the difference between low cost and low price? Cost is what it costs us to make the product. Price is what we sell it for. We might have the highest priced product in the whole market. Just because our price is high doesn't mean our cost is high. Let's say we wanted to go into fashion and we're competing with Gucci and Versace and what else? What's another luxury brand?
Louis Vuitton.
Okay, thank you, Louis Vuitton. So we're competing with those brands and their prices are very high. Now, if our price is low, we're not luxury. So our price has got to be as high as Chanel, Louis Vuitton, Versace, Gucci, but maybe we have a very good deal with Chloe's family business that raises animals for their leather and has this amazing quality of leather. Sorry, Chloe. So we have an amazing deal with her family. So our prices are still super high, but our costs are low. So why are we making more money? Can anybody tell me? Why is that a good strategy?
More profit margin.
We have the best profit margin, the difference between the cost of production and the cost of sales. That's our margin. So where Chanel sells it for $1,000, but it costs them $800 to make, we sell it for $1,000, but it costs us $200 to make. We have much better margins. Differentiation is this idea of being unique. So sometimes the company wants to be unique. Now, unique could be a unique way to teach English. I have a friend right now who's starting a company in China trying to teach Chinese in a unique way. I mean, you guys study Chinese, you understand that the way most schools teach Chinese is always the same all over China and all over the world. You know, they have these same textbooks and the textbooks are pretty boring and some of them have, you know, sort of weird messages to them about what is like being a good son and things like that. And like, you know, this is the way that Chinese is taught around the world. So I have a friend who's a Chinese person, who's a business person, who's trying to create an industry where they would teach Chinese in a unique way. And that's differentiation. Now, of course, as she does that, she's going to need the right kind of employees. People who are creative, people who are outgoing, people who are extroverts, people who are open to new ideas. And the next is focus. Focus is having a niche, and that is a narrow target market. Only targeting 20-year-olds, only targeting people born after 1990, only targeting children, only targeting the elderly, whatever the target market is, right? These are our three basic competitive strategies. And whichever strategy the company pursues, you know, we have a quote in our PPT, and the quote is from an expert, this is from the textbook, but an expert who was at Harvard studying manufacturing firms. And what he said is, all the data on studying manufacturing firms really points to one thing. And the thing is, how successful a company is, their flexibility, their success, really has to do with one thing, and that is how managers cultivate, measure, communicate with people. That's it. It's the operators, it's the workers, it's the employees. That's what makes a company successful. You can have the best product or service in the whole world. If your employees are unhappy and they're quitting and you're not paying them enough and they're miserable, it's just not going to succeed long term. If you have the lowest cost, you can succeed short term. If you have something very unique, you can succeed short term, but that's it. Everything else is secondary. Okay, I think there's only one real big thing I want to talk about besides that. So we're actually not going to run late today, which is good. So just to review, we talked about what is strategic HRM, and the idea is that This is HRM that is designed to help a company achieve its strategic goals. We said that there's a 7-step plan, right, for strategy. And what steps is HR most involved in? Tell me one of the steps that HR is most involved in, Harry.
Is it the goals that will achieve the vision?
Okay, how is HR involved in setting goals?
I'm not sure. I just remember you saying like there was four ways, like they're involved in like the SWOT, the goals, like how the course of action, and also evaluating success.
Okay, so that is true. Can you tell me, Jonathan, how is HR involved in SWOT? How are we involved in the internal elements of SWOT?
So the employees do contribute a lot to strengths and weaknesses of the company.
And why is that? How does that affect HR?
Well, HR is, I mean, the definition of responsibly for the employees, and also
Okay, so
they assess the strengths and weaknesses, right? So like the evaluation of the actual internal factors.
okay, so HR is the department in a company that knows about the employees and that hires and fires them and that trains them. So since employees are a big part of our strengths or our weaknesses, HR obviously is very closely involved. Camila, how is HR involved in the external part of SWOT?
I believe it's like the opportunities, probably. So
But
HR
how are
has,
why is HR involved in that?
not quite sure, but maybe it has to do with some of the future opportunities that, like for example, the stuff, if they are like prepared or they are like the right people to be there. Not sure.
Okay, I mean, that is really internal. When you're talking about us having the right people, that's us internally. Abigail, can you tell us how is HR involved in the external part, the opportunities and threats?
Like implementing missions and stuff.
Well, HR doesn't implement. We're not the executives in the company. The executives implement their strategy. We don't do that.
Making sure that they achieve their goals and stuff.
And who achieves what goals?
Employees, sorry.
But that's internal. I mean, that's us inside our company. Whether we achieve our goals or not, that's not outside the company. Who can tell me what HR does that's outside, that's related to opportunities and threats? External, outside our company.
I think it's because HR has like the information about the competitors and incentive plans.
Okay, so we have information about competitors. That's one thing we have. What do we know about competitors? We know what they pay their people, right? We know their benefits and incentives and salaries. We might know something about how many people they hire, their recruitment, their selection, their turnover. How do we learn this stuff? We'll talk about that later in the semester, but really it's not that complicated. You can find out pretty much everything you need to know about other companies based on their websites, based on looking at their promotional materials, based on calling them and asking. You know, there's lots of ways, and a lot of information is also public. If they're a big company, they file taxes. A lot of their information is actually public, and we can find out a lot about the competitors. It is HR's job to know that about the competition. So we have to know what's going on in the environment. That's one thing we know, is the competition. The other thing we know that's external is we know the trends. What is the trend in the age of workers? Diversity, technology, the geographical trends. What are the economic trends? In HR, we have to be aware of all these different trends because they affect who is available to work in our company. What's the unemployment? How's the economy? How's technology? How is this affecting diversity, age, racial diversity? All these things are relevant. So when the company wants to make their plans and they talk about, well, what's going on in the environment, HR is highly involved in that. So HR is very involved in SWOT. That's the second part. HR is involved, as Harry said, in the courses of action, going from mission statements to narrow courses of action. And then what's the final thing that HR is involved in? Anybody? What's the final part?
Evaluate performances.
Good, evaluating performances, right? That's a big part of what HR does, is we do quantitative evaluations. So we use numbers and we use measurements to decide how do we evaluate if things have gone well. Okay. So the last big thing to talk about in this subject is HR tools. What kind of tools do we use? And this is going to be one of the presentations later this semester. But from the beginning, we need to understand these terms and be a little bit familiar with them. And, you know, I do recommend you take a little time, go on Google and just look for strategy maps or HR scorecards or digital dashboards so you're familiar with them. But we'll be showing examples throughout the course. So a strategy map is like a chain of boxes. And here's an example we had of a strategy map. So it's one of these, it's a map, you know, it's a map of, at the top, we have making money, profitability. That's what we want. But the question is, how do we get there, right? A map is how you get from one area to another area. So how do we get to making money using our HR strategies? Now, that's different for different companies. It's different for different departments and companies. It might be different for different products. And different areas of companies use their own maps. But in HR, we have our own strategy map. So we start with this idea of HR practice, high performance HR practice. That's where we start. From there, we need to make sure that we understand our organizational and employee capabilities, right? So this is a map of airplanes. I don't know if you can tell that. You can see here it says on-time flights or low fares, but this is a map of airplanes. And so for an airline, how would HR help them be more profitable? You know, so the first thing that we need to do is we need to understand what are the employees able to do? What are their skills? And we might, for example, have a ground crew that's very engaged. Because if we do that, then we minimize plane turnaround. And we can get the plane to land and to take off more efficiently, and that saves a lot of money. Because if we can do that, then we can fly fewer planes. And if we can do that, then we can have lower prices. And if we can do that, we can have more customers. And if we can do that, we can make more money. And if we can do that, we have a higher profit. Or if we can fly fewer planes, we have a lower cost, right? Your profit is always the relationship between how much money your business costs and how much money your business makes, your revenue. The difference between your cost and your revenue is your profit. So anything we can do to lower costs. Now in HR, there are lots of ways we can lower costs in HR. It could be by firing certain employees. It could be by training certain employees. It could be by hiring certain employees so that the employees aren't overwhelmed and they can focus on the details of their job. You know, so one thing we do in HR is we focus on how can we lower the costs. And another thing we focus on is how can we raise the profits. How do we raise profits? More customers. If you have more customers, you get more money and then you have higher profits. So really, these are our two choices in HR. One, lower the costs. Two, raise the revenues. So get more customers. How do we get more customers in HR? We're not talking about management, we're talking about HR. And to get more customers, we need people to be satisfied. How do we make sure that the customers are satisfied? Well, I mean, our job is not to make high quality products. That's the, you know, engineering or marketing, or we don't make the product, but we make sure the employees are satisfied. Because if the employees are satisfied, then the customers are far more likely to be satisfied. So in HR, we have a lot to do with employee satisfaction and customer satisfaction, and that's really this side. Employee satisfaction and customer satisfaction, because that leads to increased revenues. Then we get more customers, we get more money, and we have higher profits. On this side, we're really talking about lowering costs. So we have these two elements in our strategy map, using HR to lower costs and using HR to increase the satisfaction to get more customers. And that's the idea of a strategy map, is that we would map out how HR works in this company in order to do two things. One, lower costs by making sure we're not wasting our people's talent. We have the right people. If somebody doesn't have the right training, or if they're being inefficient, you know, do we fire them? Do we train them? Do we move them to a new department to make sure our costs are low? And then increasing revenues by making sure we do what we can to keep employee satisfaction high so that the customer satisfaction is high. That is the strategy map, okay, this first part. So a strategy map is about achieving the overall strategic goals of the company, and it shows everybody sort of a big picture of how HR can contribute to the company. Next is the HR scorecard. And I gave you some examples of that, I think, in week 1. I'll bring in more examples next week. But the idea of a scorecard is having a computer program where we have both financial and non-financial metrics. So by metrics, we mean numbers. So financial numbers, of course, that's like budgets and profit and costs and debt and things like that. But we also have non-financial metrics, and that's things like efficiency. How do we use numbers to measure efficiency, productivity, satisfaction, and effectiveness? Those are the big four: effectiveness, efficiency, productivity, satisfaction. And the idea is we look at a chain of activities in the organization. We again look at what are strategic aims of the company, and we use these metrics. Okay, that's an HR scorecard. With a digital dashboard, this is graphs and charts. So it's also created from the computer, right? The graphs and charts are created from the scorecard. The scorecard is all the data, and the digital dashboard puts the data into a graphical interface so we can see charts, and we can see bar charts and pie charts and all of these line charts and all of these graphs. So what are the kind of graphs that we look at? What are the kind of things we can see? So for example, the types of metrics we might look at would be, here are some examples of metrics that we're going to look at. And I'm not going to ask you to know all of these, but I will expect you to know the difference between a strategy map, a balanced scorecard or HR scorecard, and the graphical interface, the digital dashboard. So what kind of data do we have? We have lots of financial data, things like revenue, income before taxes, all of that is financial. We have a lot of HR data, HR to employees, the percentage of staff who do different things, how many people do we need to hire, all of that, and then also HR expenses. We have lots of data on payments. How much do people get paid? What are their bonuses? What are their salaries? Things like that. We have lots of data on education. So and that includes our training. What kind of training and education are we doing? How much does it cost us? How many people are participating? We have basic employment data. You know, how much does it cost us to hire people? How many positions do we need? What's our turnover rate? We have expectation data for, you know, the following years. And then we have metrics for more profitable organizations. So what else would give us increased profit? And this comes from our strategy map that we talked about. How do we lower costs and how do we raise profits by getting more customers? Well, we look at things like our salary increases or the bonuses. Now, we've looked at this in other parts of our data, but here they're all meant to make us more profitable. And then the digital dashboard is the computer program where we look at all this data.
Sir, I have a question. So can we say digital dashboard is a much broader version of HR scorecard? Like, I'm a bit confused with the differences. Like,
the digital dashboard, let me share the internet for a second. Okay. So just looking at some examples of an HR digital dashboard. These are examples of what digital dashboards might look at. So yes, they're very broad because they might have a lot of information about an employee, for example. We can't see that one. So they're very broad. The difference between this, like here's a pretty broad example. It has a lot of different stuff on it. And the difference between this and a balanced scorecard. A scorecard, you see, kind of looks like a card, and it doesn't have as much data, so it's not as broad. But a scorecard, like here's an example, would have behavior, success, competency, culture, these big areas. And it's balanced between things that are financial and things that are non-financial. So the scorecard is where we get a lot of the data. And we put the data into categories: financial, retail, telecommunications. Oh, there's a KPIs also. Here's a scorecard that's financial, customer, learning and growth, internal business, right? That's a pretty balanced scorecard. Obviously, it doesn't have all of the details. This is not the same as computer graphs, where there's bar charts and pie charts and line charts, and we could look at the month to date, the year to date, the last 3 years, this week. We can see the customer satisfaction scores. We can see the employee efficiency scores. The digital dashboard is a lot more specific about numbers and graphs. And the scorecard is more of a framework for how we analyze, are we achieving our goals? And this is a pretty decent example of a balanced scorecard. So it's going to take a little time maybe for you guys to kind of understand the differences, but I'll keep showing them throughout classes so we can see them. The last thing I had mentioned that has to do with this was our role in HR in M&A, in mergers and acquisitions. And I said that one of the biggest problems in mergers and acquisitions, and that's when one company either buys another company or one company partners with another company, the two become one. So this can be done for synergistic reasons, either to cut costs or to boost revenue. So maybe you have two companies and they've become one company. Now, only about 1/2 of these mergers and acquisitions actually are successful. And the number one reason that mergers and acquisitions are not successful is related to personnel. It's related to people being unhappy, and then there's employee resistance, people quit, there's bad morale, there's low productivity, or it costs a lot more money because now you have different benefits. These are 100% HR issues. So in mergers and acquisitions, HR plays an extremely important role. The role of HR in M&A is pretty much in three big stages. So the first is the planning stage. And that's where we have to understand when two companies become one, how is that going to affect the employees? How is that going to affect benefits and pensions and legal issues and all these different things? The second is the due diligence stage. And due diligence means before you buy a company or before you merge a company, you want to make sure you understand the results. Once we merge, what's going to happen? Is this other company able to financially handle this if we merge together with them? And HR helps with things like organizational structure. So as I said before, if you have two different companies, they both have a marketing department. When you merge them together, what do you do with two different marketing departments? Do you have to fire people? Can you have two marketing managers? What happens to the person who gets demoted? Do they get another job? Do they become manager of something else? Are they going to quit? Do they get fired? All of that happens between planning and due diligence. And then the integration stage is once the two companies merge together, how does HR work at that time? So, you know, your midterm and your final exam are both open book, but there's a very reasonable possibility that in the example, there would be two companies, maybe a company in China and a company in your home country that are going to either work together or merge together. And I give an example like that because it's something that might foreseeably happen. So let's say that you finish CIP and you start working for either a Chinese company or a company from your home country, and two of these companies want to merge together. Now, HR is going to be very involved in that. They're going to be involved in recruitment, selection, training, compensation, and evaluation. They'll be involved in labor, they'll be involved in safety, they'll be involved in fairness. But in what way? They're involved in these three stages, right? Planning, due diligence, and integration. Anything else that we want to say? We talked a little in the video after this about what is a high performance work system. And then we talked a little about employee engagement and the idea of employee engagement. So we don't really need to talk about those other things. You can watch the video, but the idea of a high performance work system is just in a business where it's functioning at a high level, the employees get paid more, they get more training, there's better recruitment, there are better teams, and HR is a big part of what makes a business very, very high functioning. Then there's an example of a comparison of high and low performance companies and how HR is involved. So for example, selection. In a low performing company, using selection tests, which we'll learn about in a couple of weeks, the average low performing company spends about 4% of their time on selection tests. A high performing company, 30% of HR's time when they're doing recruitment might be spent on this. Training. In a low performing company, HR is spending 35 hours, you know, per, I don't know if it's 6 months or whatever it is here, training, as opposed to 117 hours. That is a huge difference. This is a Harvard Business School Press review. For appraisal, I mean, look at the difference here. The percentage of employees who receive a regular, like every month or every 3 months, evaluation. In a low performing firm, less than half of the employees get a regular performance evaluation. In a high performance firm, 95%. Everybody gets an evaluation, almost everybody. You know, the pay practice. How many people are eligible for incentive pay? And when we talk about compensation, we'll talk about that, but that's like a bonus. In a low performing firm, maybe less than a third of the people can get a bonus. In a high performing firm, 84%. You know, these differences are just huge. I mean, look at self-directed teams and autonomous work team. In a low-performing firm, only less than 10%, less than 1/10 of the teams are autonomous. In a high-performing firm, 70%. I mean, that difference is absolutely staggering. And that's the difference between a low-performing firm and a high-performing firm in terms of HR. All of this stuff here is HR. So HR really can be the difference between a low and a high-performing firm. And when we have a high-performing firm, what we get is employee engagement, right? That's really what we get, and that's exactly what we want. So we have, for employee engagement, when people are engaged, they are proud to work for the company. They have a sense of personal accomplishment from the job. They would say the company is a good place to work. They really care about the future of the company. They're willing to put in a great deal of effort beyond what they have to do. They're personally motivated. They understand how their unit contributes to the company's success, how their role contributes to the company goals and objectives. They feel inspired. These are things we want. This is really what a high-performance company is. And HR is such a critical part of making sure that companies perform at their best. Okay, and that's pretty much it for this topic. This isn't that big of a topic, so we are actually right on time. Let me stop sharing. For next week, I want you guys to, I'd like you to watch the video. So next week, there's actually 2 parts to the next chapter, which is recruiting. There's 4 and there's 4A. So 4, this is chapter 4, is about recruitment and talent management, and 4A is about workforce planning and recruiting. I'll put both of those videos up. Right now, I only have one of them up. I'll put the other up in the next day or so. And I'd like you to watch both of those. They're about an hour each. And because I don't know how far we'll get next class, but I'd like to be able to do all of it. The chapter that goes with those, if you haven't read it yet, is chapter 3 in the American Management Association book. That is the chapter entitled Recruitment. Should be something related to recruitment. The employment process. Okay, so that's what I'd like you to do for next week, is watch 2 videos, take a look at that chapter. I'm not asking you to read it word for word, you know, but it would be good to run through it on the computer or on your iPad or something, look at the chapter headings, look at the first sentences of paragraphs, just get an overall idea of what we're talking about in that chapter. Okay, any questions? No. And then in the next couple of weeks, maybe even next week, I will start to talk to you about your midterm. The midterm in this class is a test, not an essay, but it shouldn't be too bad. But I'll start to let you know what I want you to put together so that you're ready for it. It's open book, and so you won't find it too bad for anybody who's been coming to class. But I'll start talking about that pretty soon. Okay, if there are no other questions, then let me transfer hosting. I'll transfer it to, I'll give it to Jody today. Jody, I'm making you the host. Okay, Jody is now the host. And so I am leaving, but the room will not close in case you guys wanted to talk to each other about anything. Feel free. And I will see you guys next week. Okay?
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.